It
And
is
it was a good
time
idea.
to get into week 2 of our deep dive into Alan Moore's Twilight of the Superheroes, the greatest superhero story never told. Again, we had a lot of positive feedback on this last week. Last week, we established the why of Twilight of the Superheroes. We know that Alan Moore wanted Twilight of the Superheroes to be like Dark Knight Returns is to Batman, the end game of the myth of DC. He wanted to establish a future for DC's world and characters that gives the creators the ability to work back from, and it solves the problem of superhero characters not ever getting a proper ending to their stories, but it also allows mainline continuity to continue unabated. Alan Moore wanted to give DC their cake and eat it too. He wanted to establish an endpoint for these characters, but also make it so that there was nothing that happened that would alter the, at the time, present of DC's comics in any way unless they wanted it to. This week, we're going to discuss the framing device that Moore uses to establish the link between, at that time, current DC and the future that Twilight of the Superheroes would show us. Just how concerned Moore was with stepping on the toes of other creators and how to handle those who didn't want their stories to cross over. And we're going to get into the background of this future and what this future looks like. So, to start, Moore talked about how Twilight of the Superheroes would be a Secret Wars-esque hit and how it could even introduce new characters. And I was fascinated by this idea. Last week, he actually specifically referenced the Secret Wars and the success of that and the toy sale and all the different things that they were able to accomplish with that. And it's worth keeping in mind that all the heroes fighting heroes stuff and I don't necessarily want to say the modern blueprint for an event because that's not accurate, but Secret Wars, I think, is maybe, and I'm open to being corrected, the first event. The first, let's take heroes and smash them together event. The first event that had a drive of let's sell toys, let's sell merchandise, let's do all of those things.
Like a packaged deal beyond the comics. Like, how do you extend that through like a larger corporation?
Right. And
Sure.
Alan Moore, especially if you consider it from a multimedia standpoint.
Okay.
And Alan Moore was clearly inspired by that. So he said, in order to make the central storyline comprehensible to a wider audience than the trivia mesmerized hordes of comic fandom, the link with the present can be ignored and effectively severed, leaving only a powerful and simple central story idea, that of an apocalypse for superfolk played out by warring factions against the fascinating backdrop of a drastically altered future, with all the plotting, romance, and intrigue of one of those storied historical dramas about warring factions amongst the Medici or whatever. This central idea, that of a war and all its spectacular ramifications, making it ideal material for a role-playing game. Perhaps the ultimate superhero role-playing game. It also lends itself nicely to a wide range of other spin-off projects, including those in the toy soldier range. The apocalyptic mood of the series, tied in with current preoccupations and encapsulated in a phrase, like the previously mentioned, quote, waiting for Twilight, could work nicely with regard to the advertising campaign, as well as giving us a range of credible adult items as badges, posters, and t-shirts.
Yo, my man out here building out the Joes. Give the guy the keys, bro. What?
It's so wild seeing how 80s boardroom capitalist Alan Moore was.
It's phenomenal. It's incredible. Like, there's such foresight and future planning, which is the thing that you need to do. Is you need to look beyond the next event. How does it tie in through these larger products? It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But I like seeing that, and then where he is now. It's just like, yo, what?
Oof.
Yeah.
Skyrocketed down.
Dude called the Dungeons and Dragons boom pretty early here, saying we should make a tabletop game out of this too.
That'd be rad.
Yeah.
This would have been right around the original D&D boom.
Yeah.
The one that made my parents, worry about Satan and the gays and
Were they part of what was it? Was it SAD or something like that?
mine weren't. No.
Dungeons and Dragons, I think. Yeah.
Reminds me of Stranger Things.
Mad. It was
last
Mad
season.
Mothers against
Against
Dungeons
drunk driving.
and Dragons.
Is that what MAD stood
That's
for?
what MAD stood for.
Oh, okay. Well, who knows?
There needs to be an organization for that. Like, we're against drunk driving.
You think?
So
I lived in Buffalo. You're right.
So Alan Moore also talked about the possibility of a superhero movie based on Twilight of the Superheroes, which I thought was really funny, because this is way pre the idea of superhero movies as like a big like franchise, I guess.
Right.
At that point, obviously, we had, the Superman movie by Dick Donner and things like that. This is pre-Batman 89.
Wow, dude. He had it planned out. This is
Right.
foresight.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny that we will never get this movie, but in a few years, we'll be getting a Secret Wars movie, which this whole thing was sort of loosely inspired by from a multimedia standpoint.
No.
I just thought that was cute. He also talked about the way that this could introduce new characters. And he said, we could introduce a character who hasn't been seen yet. Say Barbara Randall's proposal for a female Flash. That could be presented in Twilight as an old established character who's been in the Justice League for years. When the character appears on the newsstands in her own title some months later, this should strike a suitably ominous resonance back to the Twilight storyline. Is it all coming true? Even if it doesn't all come true in every detail, even if, say, she never joins the Justice League, mightn't it most of it come true? Does that remind you guys of anything? 5G, maybe?
Hey,
5G in all the studies, LA Times causes massive mutation and cancer.
I'll explain the link. Alan Moore was obsessed. If you read this, he was obsessed with the idea of setting up an end for DC.
Yeah.
He truly believed
Yeah.
that in order for DC to stand the test of time, it had to move forward. And it had to show people, just like we see with the myths from Norse mythology and even religion, if you consider the Bible, the character, or not the character, I'm sorry, Jesus has an endpoint. I don't want to be disrespectful. Jesus has an end point and a beginning that we are aware of. Last week, I used the example of Robin Hood, a character who has a very clear-cut beginning, middle, and end, which is something that superheroes do not have. Alan Moore saying, look, the beginning part, we got that. The middle part, I can't help that. You motherfuckers are intent on making money forever off of these characters by keeping us stuck in the middle. What I can do is give these characters an end. So for everybody who wants to be stuck in the middle, we could do that. But for everybody who wants to know how it ends, that's what I'm giving them. Absolutely obsessed. Dan Didio clearly felt the same way, because his big idea was to give an end to the traditional Batman and Superman and to create a way to bring about the new age of pushing things forward. To me, those are coming from the same place. Was Dan Didio's idea as eloquent as Moore's? Maybe not, but Dan Didio is not a writer who's celebrated. Moore's one of the greatest of all time.
do you think, because like this whole Twilight of the Superheroes, it's almost mythological in and of itself, and inside baseball comics. Do you think that influenced Didio's thinking a bit, or it's just like lightning just striking twice in similar ways?
I am of the belief that a lot of stories that we have seen are inspired by this.
Yeah, fair.
And I have that saved for later, but I'll tease you a little bit. What is Kingdom Come about?
Yep. That's the first thing that I thought of,
Sure,
even
okay.
last week. Yeah.
Yep.
Man, I love Alan Moore when he talks about these characters with like passion.
Mm-hmm.
This dude is in it, man.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing. I want to get into it because we haven't actually talked about how we get to this world. So here's the setup. It all starts with the Time Trapper. Raise your hand if you know who the Time Trapper is.
Oh, surely.
Time trap.
I didn't know.
I mean, like that sounds like a Flashpoint character.
Go ahead, Kale. You might have it.
No, I don't think so.
Go
To
for
me,
it.
it sounds like a Snapper Carr from the ancient Justice League characters when their headquarters were in that mountain.
So I will give you guys the answer. Time Trapper is a Legion of Superheroes villain. Oh, yeah. Harris, Isaiah Os in the chat just got it right.
Wow. Yo.
Nerd.
Time Trapper is an ancient Legion of Superheroes villain, and the basis for this story, which completely reminds me of ridiculous characters like Psycho Pirate, and like whenever there's a major event, there's always a crappy character from
Beyonder.
DC who's at the start of it.
Even Marvel with Beyonder. That dude's ridiculous.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess I was referring more to like those like D-list villains that DC loves to put at the
Sure.
forefront of
Yeah.
these things. But yes, I think Beyonder also fits that bill.
So
So
you need to put some respect on the Psycho Pirate's name. Thank you very much.
I actually like the Psycho Pirate, but
I
all I was
love
trying to
the
say
Psycho
is
Pirate.
like,
Yeah.
come on, right? So Time Trapper establishes a quote temporal fluke field within the time streams, and that lures and traps time travelers, in this case, the Legion of Superheroes and Rip Hunter, within it, largely preventing them from being able to escape its clutches and leaving them, in some cases, stranded on one of the several different Earths that have sprung up within the relative location of the time trap. So this is like, the Legion of Superheroes, Rip Hunter, these are characters who traditionally are in the time stream, going to different realities and things like that. And Time Trapper is setting a trap for them so that they're stuck. And the byproduct of this trap is that it actually recreates Earths from the multiverse that were removed from reality after Crisis on Infinite Earths. So this opens up the door for the return of the multiverse already, which is something that Alan Moore criticizes consistently, that the multiverse is gone. He talks about how the Dark Knight verse could be a thing. He doesn't use that language, but he talks about how we could see that continue on. And maybe that's a world that continues to live. He references several other worlds that, are no longer in existence. He also talks about how you could use this to dump some crap that you don't want anymore. He specifically references, and I know my boys are going to get this one. He specifically references a rainbow Batman that they can dump into the fluke.
Dope.
Yeah.
Love Rainbow Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's up there
So,
with like a giant kaiju turtle, Jimmy Olsen.
gosh, DC was
Black-
wacky.
Black Lois Lane.
Yep.
That was amazing.
I'm going to Philly next weekend, and I know one of the comic shops in Philly has that on display for sale. That issue of Superman. It's tempting.
Incredible.
Tempting.
Love it. So while Rip Hunter is in the future, he meets John Constantine, who tells him he must go back in time to to that time's DC's present in order to warn the superheroes of the fate that awaits them in hopes they may prevent it. Now, this represents the framing device of Twilight of the superheroes. This is not intended to be the story. This is how we get into the story. Or talks a lot about how, that framing device is meant to sort of be the bridge between, at that time, present DC and the future, but to be fluid enough that when you want to tell this story on the big screen or you want to translate it into multimedia, you could take that out.
Is this the first Zero issue?
No way.
And so with all that established, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the world. Let's talk about the story. What is this?
You teased it in a weird way last week, Sean. So
Just you wait, he
yeah.
said.
Sorry?
No, he's saying just you wait.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to Alan Moore's words for a little bit and let him explain what we're looking at. The world of Twilight is not a world where the superheroes have deliberately taken over, but one where they have inherited the Earth almost by default, as various social institutions started to crumble in the face of accelerating social change, leaving the superheroes in the often unwilling position of being a sort of new royalty. Even though government and civic authority has all but disintegrated, the various areas of America each have their own coteries of protecting superfolk to look after them. And the superheroes have thus tended to group into clans, each looking after a certain province. There are numerous houses of this nature, dividing America into a kind of feudal barony system effectively, in terms of politics, if not in terms of technology, which is as advanced as one might expect by 2000 AD. I do want to say that the future that he's referencing is about 2010.
Okay.
It's between 2000 and 2010. So from 1980, whatever. So just keep that in your mind. I love this. I love it so much. Let's break it down. Moore is saying that we're not looking at a world that has gone into the apocalypse because of, nuclear attack. He talks about how he specifically does not want to do what he did in Watchmen, and that was becoming passé because it's been done to death.
Oh, man.
It's not that. It's not Parallax. It's not Superman gone bad. It's apathy and atrophy. It's the proliferation of superheroes and people with powers creating a world that has alienated human beings from it to the degree that they are now willingly subservient to superheroes because they don't believe that they can live without them, because the entirety of their history since the proliferation of Superman has been that they need superheroes to protect them from the threats of the world. Think about DC Comics. What human threats are there? Forget not powers, regular human threats.
Global
and who solves
warming.
them?
It's just really Amanda Waller, really, and even then, it's like she needs
Even then,
super
she needs
villains.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you also have like Batman villains, and it's like, meh.
I guess Lex is probably the biggest threat.
To humanity.
I would say editorial probably.
Right, like Lex would certainly count. He's I don't even know. I don't even know that Lex is a threat in that way. Like, he's not trying to end Earth.
True. Yeah.
Like Joker just wants to watch the world burn. He doesn't necessarily care to end Earth. All the threats to Earth are alien or powered, or powered or supernatural somehow, not nukes. And so when Earth is not at risk of being ended by humans lose the drive to protect themselves, and they let the heroes do it for them. I think that's brilliant.
Is this under the assumption then that they're also like living in a more idyllic society at that point?
No, because superheroes don't have that ability. You know what I'm saying? Like, superheroes don't have the knowledge or the intelligence to run a government. They know how to protect people. So what we're looking at is a world that is atrophying because it has no one's looking over the garden anymore. No one's tending to the garden. Eden is overgrown. And it's
the beginning of Kingdom Come.
It smells
Exactly.
like Doomsday Clock in a way too.
Yeah, it's Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's superheroes fighting each other for misunderstandings, if not the fun of it, because they have to do what they have to do.
Yep.
It's also a good, what we were talking about previously. It's also like it. This is why Civil War would never work in DC. It's just the DNA of this world is this what Alan Moore is talking about is the ultimate end of it.
Exactly. I'll go back to Alan's words now. Alan said, what I want to show is a world which, having lived through the terrors of the 50s through the early 90s, with overhanging terror of a nuclear Armageddon that seemed inevitable at the time, has found itself faced with the equally inconceivable and terrifying notion that there might not be an apocalypse, that mankind might actually have a future, and might thus be faced with the terrifying prospect of having to deal with it rather than allowing itself the indulgence of getting rid of that responsibility with a convenient mushroom cloud or 900. Following the predictions made by Alvin Toffler and other eminent futurologists, I want to show a future in which everything from the family structure to the economy is decentralizing into an entirely new form that, while it might ultimately be better suited for the survival and the changed conditions in life of the 21st century, is in a constant and incomprehensible state of flux and chaos for those living through it, caught in one of the most violent historical niches where one mode of society changes to another, such as the Industrial Revolution. The people of our world find themselves going through an upheaval, more abstract and bizarre, but every bit as violent, and their institutions crumble in the face of the wave of social change. They find themselves clinging to the various superhero clans who represent their only anchor of stability in this rapidly altering world. Last week, I talked about Alan Moore and his disdain for people, adults, who find solace in superhero comics to escape from their reality, right? Alan Moore is taking that meta and putting it into the book. Humans are now terrified of the way that the world is changing, so they are now giving themselves over to superheroes.
Relinquishing that.
Yes. Which, go ahead.
Sorry, and by virtue of that, have to confront and have to question, well, what does my world look like that?
Exactly.
Damn, dude.
And it turns the superheroes into gods who now have worshipers.
Yo.
They're now myth.
True. Okay.
Again, I can't say it enough. This is brilliant.
More than super gods. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So I want to give you guys a teaser because we are coming to the end of this edition, but I want to give you guys a teaser of two of the houses that encompass the New World Order of DC. When I say New World Order, I'm not implying 5G turn the frogs gay. I'm talking about the new way of things.
In this context, within, yeah.
The superheroes have divided themselves into houses. They're not allies. They're also not necessarily at war. This is just the way things are. So we have the Houses of Steel, or rather the House of Steel, the House of Thunder, House of Titans, House of Mystery, House of Secrets, House of Justice, House of Tomorrow, and the House of Lanterns.
Okay. Wait. Do the first three again?
Okay. House of Steel, House of Thunder, and House of Titans.
Titans. The fuck
Why are you questioning
teen
that?
variety?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I'm an idiot. Oh, I'm like, what the fuck are Titans?
Yet he could tell. You could think he could talk on Nightwing earlier in the show.
Oh, dumb bitch.
Steel. I'm assuming Wonder Woman and team. Yeah.
Maybe the Man of
Woman?
Steel, Marco.
The
Who?
Wonder Woman of Steel?
No, but I'm just saying like Steel, like warring.
It's Superman, Marco. Oh my.
No, but he
This
said
this motherfucker thought he could talk on Nightwing.
wait, but the last two you had Green Lantern and something else that was I thought Superman related.
House of Tomorrow and House of Lanterns.
Tomorrow is Superman. That's easy. So Steel has to be something else.
Sean, what's the House of Steel?
All right.
Yeah,
You know
fucking
what?
shut you up. Yeah, okay.
You know what?
No,
Fuck you.
you
Give
did
me
it.
that
You
one,
did it
all right?
because I know
Okay.
the answer
Hey,
to this.
you know what? Fuck me. You're right. I'll give you that one.
All right. Well, here's the answer. I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll leave it to Moore. If I change my mind, he says that this house would likely be House of Steel would likely be in New York. But he says if I change my mind, it could be outside America altogether and set in the Arctic Circle, based around a new fortress of solitude. This is because the House of Steel consists of the clan founded by Superman. We have
The
Superman
Man of Steel.
himself, a morally troubled figure who doesn't know what's best to do about the chaos he sees surrounding him, but who has come to accept that the houses provide the only real permanent structure in a destabilizing world and are thus important to maintain. Superman has married and raised a couple of kids, and the person that he is married to is
Bruce Wayne.
Lana Lang.
Oh.
Sway.
it is definitely Wonder Woman.
Yeah. You said that.
Oh.
Yeah, I did say that last week. Who has had an identity change to Superwoman to accommodate her new stature. We see the genuine and powerful love between these two in the face of the perils of the world surrounding them and the desire to do what's best. They're also troubled by their two offspring. One of these is a new Superboy, and he's about 18 when the story opens, and he's real bad news. The other child is a less delinquent Supergirl, a new one who, like Superboy, has been born of the union between Superman and Wonder Woman, but who is much kinder and gentler, more her mother's child. Having three members in the Superman class and Wonder Woman herself, they're obviously a clan to be reckoned with.
This is
So
very
not-
Game of Thronesy, very Dark Knights of Steel too. So
Oh, yes.
Dark Knights of Steel, yet another book that I was going to bring up later that I believe was directly influenced by this.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Although you could obviously make your arguments, it came out after Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones,
Sure.
big deal.
I would argue that Alan Moore stuff is just archetypal, and that even subconsciously it can influence things.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Whether you
Yeah.
even know about it or not, it's DC. It's an understanding of the world.
Does he say who House of Secrets is?
No, he left that one a secret.
It's all here, Marco.
And you're not. And that's next week.
But I want to give you guys one more house because these two houses are the basis of the big story that we're going to get into next week as we dive even deeper. And this is the House of Thunder.
Ooh.
I don't care.
You will. I'm going to refer back to more now. The House of Thunder is the other major power and possesses members with power in the same class as that of the House of Steel. The House of Thunder is composed of the Marvel family plus additions. Captain Marvel himself is the patriarch and is, if possible, even more estranged and troubled by the state of the world than Superman is. Perhaps because the Marvel family are having to come to terms with the difficulties of having human alter egos along with everything else. A point I'll return to an hour in the plot. That's, again, so fucking brilliant. They're the gods and the humans at the same time.
He doesn't say whether
Wild.
it's Billy Batson still as a kid, though, right? It
I'm
could
not
be
done.
Okay.
Oh, damn. Fuck yeah.
So referring back to more, alongside Captain Marvel, there is Mary Marvel, who the captain has married, more to form a bona fide clan in opposition to that of Superman than for any other reason.
I think they're
There's the-
cousins. I don't know about that.
Well, there's the Game of Thrones connection.
Oh,
Incest.
they're just they were adopted at the same, like they're not by blood.
No. At this point, they might have been. It would have been blood.
Does that shock you guys?
That they're married?
Mhm.
Not especially.
No?
Yeah.
No.
No,
No,
you're gonna
kind
say
of a
something
dud.
that's gonna gross me out. I feel.
I mean,
It's-
what do you mean like a dud? Like
Like
it's an
that's not
interesting.
that's not that compelling.
It's an interesting
Oh,
point.
here we
but,
go.
Oh, this guy. He's. Oh, you. Oh.
All right, listen. I'm going to preface this by saying I can't explain why Moore wanted to do this, but this is what Moore wanted. It's a bombshell. If you don't want to hear it, it's a little gross. If you don't want to hear it, scroll ahead.
They're in a three-way polyamorous couple with Tawny the Tight.
I'll refer back to Moore.
Yif.
There is also Captain Marvel Jr., now an adult superhero, every bit as powerful and imposing as Captain Marvel in his prime, but under the eternal shadow of a senior protege. To complicate things, Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel are having an affair behind the captain's back, which has every bit as dire consequences as in the Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
The other member of the Marvel clan is Mary Marvel Jr., the daughter of Captain and Mary Marvel Sr. Mary Jr. is fated to be a part of a planned arranged marriage to the nasty delinquent Superboy during the course of our story in order to form a powerful union between the two houses. Peripheral to all this, but perhaps interesting, we're in the House of Thunder, which rises up from the middle of LA over the course of the over on the West Coast. There are quarters occupied by those characters from the Fawcett universe who can no longer cope with life in an increasingly realistic and difficult outside world. Those include a sad and aging Mr. Talkie Tawny and perhaps even Mr. Mind. Please don't laugh. I think I can make it work.
Oh, that's in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
The houses of Steel and Thunder face each other across the country, with the various houses and constellations gathered somewhere in between, vying for the power that's left over after the two major houses have had their share.
So hold on. Captain Marvel Jr. is still the child of Mary and Cap.
Nope.
Oh, different
Captain
person.
Marvel Jr. was
that's
essentially his
different-
Robin.
He was never that.
Oh, okay.
So
Never
we have what it feels to me like incest.
It's not.
Like whether they're blood
At
or
some
not,
level. Yeah.
they grew up together and like,
Right.
it feels like incest between Captain Marvel and Mary Marvel. And then when you tackle Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel, that for me took it to a whole other level, to where it just feels like this incestuous mix of characters who are only mating and being together because of the state of the world and not really any other reason.
I mean, it's not incestuous, but it is three people who all grew up together
Yeah.
at the same time, which
I don't think Freddie Freeman, Captain Marvel Jr. was related. I think he was just a friend.
yeah, you are correct.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting. Yeah.
You're right. Billy Batson though and Mary Marvel, I'm pretty positive that's their cousins.
Moore was going all out.
I like this as though as political, not political drama, but like interpersonal drama that helps to then affect, considering the fact that Captain Marvel's already disillusioned about the world. These are the things that'll push him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
These are those emotional beats.
Oh, even worse.
Oh, yep. I'm reading the same thing.
It gets way worse.
Oh no,
they're actually brother and sister.
fuck.
In the traditional Shazam stories, Mary is Billy's once lost twin sister, Mary Batson.
We don't know if that's the premise here, right?
Sure.
I mean, unless this is a completely different universe, but you have to remember this premise that Alan Moore has written is 87, 88.
87.
Based on the Fawcett characters. Yeah.
And the Fawcett characters have been in DC continuity at this point 50 years.
And according to Wikipedia, it doesn't change until post Final Crisis.
Yeah.
So, this is Game of Thrones.
Manny makes a great point. It makes sense if you think of them as gods, as Alan Moore did. Greek gods were of the same way.
They do
I
be fucking those guys.
Definitely agree with that. I think that this is one of the elements that DC, I talked last week, there's things DC would not have allowed. This is one of them. There's no way that DC would have allowed literal incest in their comics. Obviously, Marvel didn't care 20 years later.
I will say if it's with Alan Moore, he got away with that with Swamp Thing previously. Literally an incest thing pushing against the Comics Code Authority specifically for that. So there's precedent there.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize he was into that.
His extra his indie stuff is wild, my dude.
Yeah.
Like from Hell.
Oh, was it with the three girls?
Yeah, he's got a great big erotica graphic novels about like your typical sort of Disney heroines, your Alice in Wonderland, your Wendy from Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Man, fucking quirked up white boy over here. Jeez.
Yeah.
So we've established the why. We've established the what. We've begun to establish the who.
Hmm.
We're going to dive deeper into the who next week as we talk about the rest of the houses. We're going to talk more about the subgroups and how it all falls apart. Because
Write all this down. It'll be a test at the end.
We're also going to be getting into the beyond the story, because there's a lot of meat. There's the war, the Cold War between Alan Moore and DC that somehow centers not only this premise at some point, but the most unexpected real life guest star in this story, none other than Rich Johnston from Bleeding Cool.
A character in this play?
No. The real life story.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
And the
yeah.
play of this epic we're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Epic of this
Yes.
creation and this pitch. Yeah. Okay.
Rich Johnston plays a factor, which is unbelievable.
I want to get on the show so bad. I got questions.
I could see that happening one day. And yeah, we're gonna get into so much more. The other big promise is that next week, I promise we will have images to show you.
Ooh.
Art?
We will have art,
Oh,
nothing official, but art from artists who were excited about this at the time, who read the pitch and wanted to show what they thought some of these characters might look like. So we will have some art for you guys.
who's
I'm not even gonna
who's
be
a
here next
prominent
week.
artist? He was probably in the 80s. He's probably working.
Don't
with,
look it up.
I'm not looking it up. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to guess who would put something together for him.
Marco, don't say David Gibbons again.
No. It'd probably be he at that point he was working really closely with Rick Veitch. He was art.
Oh yeah.
Who else would be excited for this shit?
Don't think too deeply about it.
Keen.
We'll reveal all that
Perez.
as we move forward. Thank you guys for listening to that. I hope you're still enjoying our look at the Twilight of the Superheroes.
It's not Sean's soapbox. It's Sean's story time. It feels like
story time with
Ooh.
Sean. Yes. Ulysses says, no, it was getting good. Well, you know what? That's reason enough to come back. And I hope by getting good, you mean it was getting juicy, because I think it's been good. There's so much good here. Alan Moore is trying to do something really special with this event. And I love the look at something that never got to actually happen. So we will continue that next week. How are you guys feeling about this?
I'm
Still,
I have to be, because I won't be on the show next week. But now I get to be like a listener on it.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
I might listen to it while I'm driving.
Perfect.
nice. You should.
Feeling good, Sean. Feeling good. Hopeful for the future.
Good.
Unlike more.
You know what's wild is we're reading this. Almost every comic book idea I've ever had has been seeded somewhere by Alan Moore. Somewhere.
Wow.
And I don't think that's wild to say. As we were talking about this, I got another idea that, unrelated to anything, in Twilight of the Superheroes, but it made me go, fuck, man, this dude is just he's like the Wizard Green Thumb. You say Alan Moore's name and you go on just a little bit. Oh, there's a comic book idea. Oh, there's one. Reach up and catch it. Oh, got it.
Yeah. When you read this stuff, and of course you read the published works of Alan Moore, you just see that this man's brain was firing constantly with ideas and concepts and things that are everywhere. He's tapped into the well of storytelling, the fountain of storytelling, the fountain of creativity. He has the direct connection to that wellspring, and it's amazing.
He feels like he's living in an arc of Sandman. It's like some writer who tapped
Yeah.
into some like otherworldly being and has the
Fucking
power
built
of
his house on top of it.
storytelling. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, again, tune in next week to hear the next chapter of the Twilight of the Superhero saga, and of course, whatever else we're going to be talking about next week on the Comics Pals podcast.